In choosing my hero, it was a toss up between my dad and my granddaughter. I chose my granddaughter Leia as my hero. We call her our Princess Leia. From the day she was born, she had a big smile on her face and a contagious spirit of love. When she was around 2 years old, we found out that she has a disability that impedes her ability to speak. She is now 13 years old. I have watched her face the world intellectually disabled and nonverbal. Through it all, she continues to smile. Here's my grayscale portrait of Leia. Of course, I use a lighter shade of gray for our highlights. I chose a sign language gesture for I love you as my symbol to represent Leia. Displaying her with a big smile surrounded by hearts is a perfect illustration of her. Leia is truly my heart. The color black played an important part in this portrait as I incorporated it into several important design elements, like the heart, her clothing design pattern, and the sign language symbol. I initially steered away from this image because of her hair. As I suspected, the braids were an issue throughout the project. Outside of the obvious enormous amount of details, the gray highlights also became a challenge. As I explored other color options, this one detail stood out and not always in a good way. In my monochromatic portrait, I selected pink as my color. Pink often illustrates love, innocence, and youthfulness, all of which are perfect descriptors of Leia. Plus, it is her favorite color. I muted the darker shades so her hair and clothes would not overshadow her facial features. I also muted and turned down the value of the lightest shade of pink so that her teeth would not be too profound. While creating my complementary portrait, I learned my greatest lessons regarding color. Opposites sometimes do attract, but they often distract. I found I had to use a darker hue for her facial features in order to get a lighter hue for her highlights. It was a choice between blue and purple. I went with blue because the complementary hue would be orange. Purple gave me yellow, which didn't appeal to me and made her teeth and hair edges stand out a bit too much. I turned down the saturation on the orange quite a bit. In my split complementary, I kept the white because of the teeth. I turned the black into blue and turned up the saturation. This made the heart pop. I muted the yellow orange so her highlights were dimmed. I went with purple for my color on her skin tone. I actually ended up liking this one. Okay, double complementary with no black or white. Whew. Remember, opposites don't always attract. I basically had to create the X factor and turn the color wheel until I could see her face clearly. Hey, it worked. I found that a muted teal worked for her teeth. It became my white. Her hair had to stay dark, so I used a highly saturated pink. Turned down the brightness to darken it. Opposite of pink is green. I had to work with that green. I turned the saturation all the way down. Otherwise, it was like a lime green, which didn't work. I also turned down the brightness. Pink and orange became the prominent colors with the high saturations, and they worked. They are also cheerful, youthful colors. Developing my analogous portrait was difficult and became my least favorite. Finding four colors in a row that worked with her teeth, hair, and highlights just didn't work for me. Not much to say about this one. Ended up with shades of orange, red, pink, and purple. Left the saturation high on the purple for the hair and turned all the others down. I turned the brightness down on all of them. At the end of the day, I didn't like this one at all. Triadic was interesting as I decided to keep the color black, which made white my issue. But if I kept white, Black became my issue. I went with a very muted shade of orange for my white shade, and purple gave me green for my highlights, but blue would have given me yellow, which just didn't work for her hairline. Lord have mercy. I turned the saturation all the way down for the purple so her hair wouldn't look like it had ants marching in it. The best thing about this portrait is the little heart. I love the color combination. I don't like the teeth on this one though. I chose the complementary portrait for my final design. I like the use of black and white. I also like the blue, which illustrates peacefulness and calmness. They are good words to describe Leia as she has reached her teens and is more mature. And this portrait illustrates that. I put the final design on the same color t-shirt as her highlights. This was perfect, especially for her hair. I had fun with this project once I got past the pen tooling. I learned a great deal about colors and